Welcome to Squatchin Holler.
In the mist where the trees lean low, Squatchin Holler's got a tale to show. Whispers creep like a creature's faint howl. Every shadow's got a secret to growl. Monsters rise where the stories are told. Squatchin Holler where the legends are born. Are they here? Are they gone? Who can say? In the holler, the truth just slips away. Huge footprints fade where the creek runs thin. A lantern sways, let the search begin. Rustling leaves, but there's no one near. Is it the wind or the beast you fear? Every echo's a question, every rustle's a clue. Squatchin Holler's got its eyes on you. Monsters rise where the stories are torn. Squatchin Holler where the legends are born. Are they here? Are they gone? Who can say?
And now your hosts welcome you to Squatchin Holler, Roger Williams and Amanda Stowers. Remember, this podcast can be downloaded everywhere great podcasts are found. And now the show.
Hello. Welcome in, everybody. I'm excited tonight. I'm always excited, but I got two of my favorite guys with me. Amanda, she couldn't be here tonight. Bama Murdock's going to fill in for us. And the way we're going to do this, since for y'all that don't know, Peyton, our guest tonight, is my son. And I thought it'd be fun to get him to come on and, you know, kind of tell his side of these things and, you know, how he got into it and all that. And Bama's a great interviewer. And I was like, man, I hope he can do it. And he agreed. So this is great. So if y'all hear me not saying nothing, which will be tough, it was planned. So, but welcome in, everybody. We're going to continue. Amanda sent me an old article from Tennessee, I believe late 1800s, and I'm gonna play her little intro here, and then I'll read that, and we'll bring the two guys out. Here we go.
And now, Amanda's Bigfoot News, brought to you by Squatchin Holler.
I don't think she expected that last week. I kind of broke her down, but here we go. So this is the Hagerstown Mail. It's Friday, May 5th, 1871. It's titled The Tennessee Wild Man. The Jackson, Tennessee Whig of the 13th instance says, quote, "We learned that between Sabi and Cranesville in what is called Piney in McNairy County," a lot of y'all may know where that's at, "a strange and frightful being has been observed for several weeks. He is said to be 7 feet high and be possessed of great muscular power. His eyes are unusually large and fiery red. His hair hangs in tangled and matted mass just below the waist, and his beard reaches below his middle. His entire body is covered with hair, and his whole aspect is most frightful. He shuns the sight of men, but approaches with wild and horrid screams of delight every woman who is unaccompanied by a man. He sometimes, with great caution, approaches houses, and should he see a man, he runs away with astonishing swiftness. This, I can't hardly see this, y'all. Sorry. Leaping the tallest fences with the ease of a deer, defying alike the pursuit of men and dogs. He has frightened several women by attempting to carry them off. Oh, wow, I didn't get that far into it. as well as by his hard aspect, and the whole country around Sabi is in consternation. We're learning old words. The citizens are now scouring the woods and are determined either to, I can't read that because of the little thing. I would say probably give him a noogie or drive him off. So I made that part up. Anyway, so sound familiar, guys? May 5th, 1871. I think this is a great segment, and Amanda has tons of these, and we'll share at least one every show. So there you go. That's Amanda's news from a long way back. So we're gonna bring on Peyton and Bama. Wait, we'll wait till Bama. There he is. Welcome, guys.
What's up?
How y'all doing?
Hey guys. Hey everybody in the chat. I'm watching the chat, but I can't chat, but I see all our friends in there, family.
It's rocking and rolling. We got all the regulars in here. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you, Bama, for coming on, and Peyton, thank you, because I know you don't do this much, and you're in a time, when I was your age, we couldn't talk about this, but now I know you've been out in places and heard people talking about it, and you've approached them and got some pretty good stories, and they don't watch these shows, just happened a couple weeks ago, and so we're going to go research that area soon. But anyway, I'm going to turn the show over to Bama. He's our guest host tonight, and I'm excited for this. So, and what we'll do is he'll ask Peyton a bunch of questions. They'll interact, and then later we have some newer stuff we'll let Peyton talk about too. Show's yours, Bama.
All right. I guess that's good, right?
Oh yeah, heck yeah. We ain't professionals around here. You know what I mean?
First of all, Peyton's been on a couple of shows. He's been on Woodwalkers. He's been on the Beast show before. But I realize that there's some people may not be familiar with him. So other than being Roger's son, tell us a little bit about yourself, Peyton. Like, first of all, what's your age, and what do you do for a living, and stuff like that. We'll get into it that way.
I'm 29. Just turned 29 about 2 months ago. I install sprinkler systems all over Middle Tennessee and some of Kentucky sometimes. Yeah, just like everyone else here, probably just a regular, like to hunt, fish, be outside, all the camping things and all the outdoorsy things.
Now, is it your girlfriend, or are you married?
Girlfriend.
Okay. I'm saying that because Peyton was at the last Woodwalkers camp out. I don't even know if we can call it a meet and greet anymore, because, we've done it several times. But he was there, and with his girlfriend, and of course Roger was there with his wife, and it was really neat to get to sit and talk with you, Peyton, for a while. If I'm around Roger, I'll really start telling some stories and lots of things most people may not want to hear, even though they asked to hear. So I hung around Peyton a while and got really comfortable with him. So we sat for probably a couple of hours one night, of course, me, it's really the only time I get to go through police stories and stuff like that. And I don't know.
I looked up and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So we were there for a while.
Yeah.
But what was cool, y'all, was we had, we don't have groups really, but we had enough time to get to know everybody. And it was like a rotating thing where, we were over here talking, and there was multiple groups, big ones, small ones, and everybody's doing the same thing. And that's amazing to me. I love that part of it.
For somebody that's never been to one, Roger's right. You end up kind of walking over and talking to 2 or 3 people. Next thing you know, an hour's gone by. And that's just kind of the way you learn about people and learn strategy. And you may not even be talking about Bigfoot related stuff.
Mhm.
You may be talking about other types of things too. But that was really neat to sit and talk to y'all that night. And
Bama,
Kel
I,
couldn't make it. Yeah.
I got a question. How hard is it to make it to the bathroom just like 40 yards away with
Well,
everybody stopping you?
it's it's not that hard because you said we got 30 seconds. And I said, okay. And I took off. But see, then your intro song gave me a little bit of a buck.
Well,
So,
I'm talking about at the meet and greet. You
oh,
know everybody, and you can see the bathroom, and you start over there, and an hour later you're still talking to people, working your way over.
yeah,
It's awesome.
you get stopped a couple of times before you ever even get over there to the bathroom. Yeah, you're right.
And you get there and there's a line.
Yeah.
And y'all, I promise I'm gonna shut up and let y'all roll. So
Okay. I wanted to start with this. I mean, I probably ask questions that other people don't. But other than just getting into this, Peyton, if it hadn't have been for your dad, do you think you would ever have had any exposure to this other than, our usual pop culture type stuff?
Well, so Daddy told me the only really thing I ever had to do with it before Daddy actually got into it was him seeing the one when he was younger. But I had stuff happen like when I was younger, being with friends and stuff out in the wood. Like me and my friends would just take off walking in the woods at night with a flashlight, and if the moon was out enough, we wouldn't even use the flashlights really.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had our guns and stuff on us, but like we weren't, we were just out walking literally. And I remember one night we did. This was before Daddy got into it, and like he had told me his story, but he hadn't dove off the high dive into this yet.
Right.
So we had a night where we were on top of a hill, or we were at the bottom of the hill, going up it, and it's in corners. We're right not 5 minutes from where Daddy lives, and there was me and a buddy of mine spotted some eyes on top of the hill. I noticed how far apart they were and how glowing orangish red they looked. And it's almost like I could see it, like one eye disappeared and the other one followed it and it turned around and walked off. And
Huh.
me and my buddy were like, what was that? But I didn't think, you think Bigfoot, but like you're at that time, you're like, am I crazy to think Bigfoot, Because I didn't really, so I eventually think that thinking about it would have got the best of me, and I probably would have started doing a bunch of research on my own of some kind until I either was out there all the time or I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I try not to like obsess about it because I'm the type that starts thinking and then going all over the place, and then once I get locked on it, I'll be in my room for 3 days
Right.
and eat my own arm and stuff because I don't want to move.
It's that we're probably more alike than you think then.
Yeah.
Because me, like, I know I use this term a lot. I'm going to keep using this term until it's coined to my name, just like the Field of 13 Owls name is. But I always say, man, if it's not in the Rolodex of my brain, I get obsessed with trying to, figure out what it is. And I say this too all the time. One of the worst things you can do is just get on the internet and just Google some random question.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
what does this and what does that? You start getting all kinds of stuff. But what age was that?
I was probably about 19 or 20. We were out of school.
Yeah.
Old enough, driving, it was like not having school nights and stuff. So,
Yeah. And people may think that odd, but I mean, as kids, we now was raised very rural. We got out and just walked the roads at night. Very seldom did we have a flashlight with us, but man, we walked the roads at night and just, it wasn't like we were really up to no meanness or anything. We just wanted to get out of the house and walk. We had this weird thing though about us to where if we saw a car lights coming, we'd all dive off into the woods or into the ditch, for no reason. And one night we was out a little bit too late. Of course, Daddy, he got out hunting for me in his truck. And when he left, I made it home from another direction. And he came home a little while. Now, this is on a Saturday night, so we had to be up for church the next morning. That's why he's out looking for us. And he came in the house and he goes, "What in the world's wrong with Frankie?" That was a friend of mine. And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Man, I topped the hill over there at the church and I got a glimpse of him on a bicycle." And he goes, and he just took off down through the woods on a bicycle. And Frankie showed up the next day with briar scratch marks where it went off down through a sawbriar patch and stuff. But, that's not uncommon for, country kids just to get out and walk,
Yeah.
But I want to ask you this, and we'll see if Roger can interject later on. When your dad told you his story originally, what did you think? I mean,
So it wasn't like he just sat me down and was like, "Look, this is what happened when I was this age and all this." It was actually, I had heard it before, like in passing, like him, like maybe mentioning, I saw something that was big and brown, like, but I don't know what it was. That's as far as it ever went. It never, like, he didn't want to give too much detail to people because, like, people think you're nuts. You tell them, I went back and measured where it was, and that, like, its head was above a limb that was 7'5" off the ground or whatever. So, and I don't remember the exact measurement that he gave, but that's roundabout. But no, it was like one time I was watching one of these Bigfoot shows, and there was the Ohio Howl, I believe it was. It was on TV, and he was inside. He was in the kitchen cooking, and that howl let out, and they played it 3 or 4 times, and he like he come bebopping around the little S hallway that we had in the house at the time, and he's looking. He's like, "I used to hear that all the time where we lived out there on Globe Road and all that."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, did you ever see anything?" And he's like, "Well," and then he told me the story, but he's like, "I don't know what it is. I've never seen." At that time, he had never seen or heard anything else. But we took a 15-year break from hunting, probably.
Probably, yeah. But
Because
my
all the
parents ended up they got divorced and split the farm up, sold it, and so then I'm raising Peyton and Keely pretty much, and there was other things going on, sports and school and
I mean,
all
I had
that.
like my grandparents. They always had land and stuff on my mom's side, but they didn't want anybody hunting it, and so I was out in the woods a lot. But as far as hunting, hell, I didn't start back up until I think around 2018 or so is when I actually started going all the time during deer season and stuff.
and that
But
wasn't because of Bigfoot or something. That was just the way it was
just lack
in your
lack
life.
of land in my lack of places to go.
Yeah.
But I've got a friend who lives right up the road from Daddy, and him and his family were kind enough to let us hunt out there, and uh, so that's where I started back, and now I've got a place that's in the family on the opposite side of the county that I go to a lot. That's pretty much just mine and another guy, but it's a lot bigger than, well, I wouldn't say it's a lot bigger. It's a lot more wooded than my buddy's place down where Daddy lives. So
I was wondering if your dad wasn't who your dad is, do you think you'd have any interest in it at all, or do you think it would just kind of fizzled out after a while?
probably, I mean, I had an interest in like aliens and stuff
Oh yeah.
before the Bigfoot like thing. So I was always like, we were looking. I remember he was telling me alien stories and stuff that they seen then, and I've had a few of those too. Like, I mean, just I remember when Mama bought her house that we live in now, or she lives in now. It was the first night we had stayed, And I remember seeing something falling out of the sky, and it's falling fast, and it just stops, and it looks like it blows out and then sucks back in like blue white light and gone. So yeah, that stuff has always been an interest because
Yeah.
it's they it seems like they do try to hide stuff, but yeah, I probably would have ended up.
Hey.
Hey.
It's funny because I remember as a child, and I don't remember what year this was, very early, but Dad would take us to Tuscaloosa to the movie theater, and there was a movie about Bigfoot. And I remember seeing the PG footage, Patterson Gimlin footage, and I've told this a lot. I specifically remember my dad telling me that, oh, that's just a guy in a suit, And back then, it wasn't stabilized, it wasn't color enhanced. They hadn't, been able to do anything to it. So, you remember how shaky it was. And of course, like I said, my dad was honest. He was a Christian. He was a good man. And when he said that, that thing don't exist, well, then I just said, well, I guess it don't exist. I always wondered what he would think about it if he were, still alive today. I think I could probably convince him, but yeah, I was kind of. Go ahead.
He sounds a lot like my dad. When I told him that night, what I'd seen, he laughed, and it took something happening to him and my mom for him to come ask me about it later. So, that's just, and even if some of those people had seen them, in the South, you didn't talk about that stuff. You didn't want so.
Mm-hmm. There's lots of instances that I found out about, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, where I had childhood friends that had sightings, and several of them. One that's a career law enforcement officer. After I had left and graduated high school, he had an encounter with something on a dirt road one night. And, but yeah, I just always wonder how people, I don't see how when somebody has something happen to them that they can't kind of stay with it or want to figure out, what's going on, unless it was just so terrifying that they just want to just kind of, leave it behind somewhere.
And I think there's different types of people handle it different ways. Like you're saying, the curious ones like us three sitting here, you can't let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's ones that it scares so bad. There's people that scare so bad to even like see a show like this. And I understand that.
I don't mean to bring it up early, but the dog thing that we were talking about backstage, I didn't go looking into that for nothing.
Yeah,
I didn't Google the first thing. I didn't Google the first thing about it. I don't go back there at certain times of day or night. Nope, I didn't want, because there's certain things that I feel like you let in, you can't let out, or you can't, it ain't going away. Yeah. And I just, I don't want no parts of it.
And we're going to get into that story in a second.
That was an example, because you said,
because this really is, you hear lots of oddities, and I always use the term high strangeness as it has to do with Bigfoot. And this is really one of the more strange ones, because when I started, and the people that I started with, which are still the same people that we have now, we've just kind of branched out, into some groups and stuff. We were strictly into the fact that it was a flesh and blood, and some people may be, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but from our standpoint, we were under the assumption that this is a flesh and blood creature, incredibly elusive, intelligent, checking off all those boxes. And but the more we did it, the more things we found associated with it, lights and different anomalies and feelings or infrasound or just, whatever. But after you had that experience at 19 where you saw the the eyes. What was the next thing after? Did you go and tell your dad? You told him right after that?
I don't
I
think
don't
I
think
told
so.
you that for a while.
No, for a
Yeah.
Probably
while.
until we started talking about this, because
Yeah.
like, if I don't know what it is, like, I'm not gonna run and tell him. I didn't want to run and tell him, "Hey, I think I saw a Bigfoot or saw this of whatever," but because I didn't see an actual, I
Right.
just noticed real big eyes, and they were to be as far apart and high off the ground they were. That that's all I saw. And I mean,
Yeah.
I know you can. I don't really chalk it up as anything. It was just an experience. I don't. It's not to me. I know some people will be like, "No, that was a Bigfoot experience you had." But if I didn't see it, I'm not gonna tell everyone I saw Bigfoot. I was up in the woods. I just
I bet you were going through the young 19-year-old Rolodex in your brain,
I'm
and
like
you're thinking it's an owl's eyes, or it's
I started Googling. I got in the truck. I said, "What eyes of animals in Middle Tennessee glow bright orange, red, or whatever, and might seem
worst
further
thing.
apart?" Yeah, like
Yeah. And y'all, people listening may think it's funny, but if you went back and listened to any show I was on, especially early on, I specifically said I did the worst thing after my first experiences. When I got home, I Googled, and it was this generalized. What throws rocks into water at land between the lakes? I mean, that's really almost what I typed, because I just couldn't. And then I was in stuff like, do armadillos jump in the water and swim? I'd already ruled out flying carp, predatory fish, running fish up into this little slough. I knew it wasn't a person. If y'all, there's been people that have visited the spot with me, very few people, because it ended up getting closed off. They closed, LBL closed it off. But if you went down in there with me, you would understand that I knew for certain that I wasn't dealing with a person, because you couldn't have got back in there in the dark. So I figured that you were probably flipping through all those things in your brain, while that was going on. If you'd have been by yourself, what do you think you would have done?
I don't even know, dude. I mean, turn around and walk the other way. Probably we were dumb
Yeah.
enough and went up there because there was 7 of us. I guess strength in numbers is not
Yeah.
is a real thing, I guess. But we
or
went up
or
there
in
and,
your mind anyway.
Yeah.
in your mind. It's in. I mean, we had like shotguns and stuff with us, so we thought we were cool. But
Yeah.
it probably should have just turned around and walked out. But like I said, and only 2 of us saw it. We're telling the other people what we saw, and they're dumb and wanted to go see like if it was up there or not. We're telling them that we saw these big eyeballs
Yeah.
turn around, it looked like, and walk the other way. And they're like, "Well, let's go up there and see." As we're walking up there, we're
Yeah.
describing what we saw. If you were to tell me that now, I'd be like, "Nah, you got it, buddy. Go ahead, shoot 3
Yeah.
times if you need something."
Those are the people. Those are the people whose dad hasn't quite possibly seen Bigfoot and already told you about it.
Right.
Yeah,
To just go walking off into the woods.
And what he was saying, I was stunned when I heard that on the TV. I didn't watch those shows, Bama. I didn't know they existed. And I come around like, what in the world? And he explained it, and I'm like, that's supposed to be a Bigfoot. And immediately my mind goes back to when I was a kid and hearing close to that sound, but I knew immediately. I told him, said, what I heard don't not like that, because I felt it. It was just so powerful. But I didn't put that together with the thing I saw, because I didn't know. I
Yeah.
was uneducated.
That it always makes me think about. There's certain people that in fact, I have a guy that went to my church. He's a big game hunter, believe it or not, from this little county. He goes to Alaska, British Columbia, places like that, and he hunts things like bighorn sheep, elk, things that, he told me, he goes, I have to get in shape, start getting in shape 6 months ahead of time sometimes. because of the mountain hiking and the altitudes and stuff like that. So we were sitting there talking the other day while I was getting some tires put on my truck. And he literally has a black bear full mount as soon as you walk in the door of his office. And then, and there's all kinds of pictures and big fish mounted. And there at the end, I asked him, I said, man, have you ever seen anything that you maybe couldn't explain or something you didn't recognize or anything like that? And he said, about the only thing I've ever saw is, he said, I think I saw a big cat of some type, but I just got a glimpse of it. And I just thought, okay. And right after that, he goes, and I didn't even mention this. He goes, oh, but I believe in Bigfoot. And I said, do you? And this guy's an elder of the church. And I said, do you? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, a person has to be ignorant not to think that there's other things out there that God's created or something that just, we don't know everything, But I thought that was interesting. But after that, when was the next time you ever had anything happen, whether it be vocals or
Bigfoot
something like
related?
that? What's that?
Bigfoot related or
Yeah.
anything weird? Okay, so trying to think, because there was stuff that happened on my buddy's farm 2 or 3 times, and it's not far from where we saw the eyes. Like, I remember one night we were frog gigging, and it's a little bitty pond. Like, you could throw a rock, like lob a rock across the other end and hit the bank. And we walked up there, and we had our flashlights, and it's got what are the Osage orange trees called, bodocks, all the way around it. So we're basically crawling and dodging thorns trying to get to these frogs in this little pond. And I've got my flashlight, but you know how it is when you're crawling and your light is bouncing everywhere and you really can't, you can see in front of you for about a second and that's it. Well, we all heard what sounded like somebody jumped out of the water with like snowshoes or paddle feet on, sploosh, 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 and went running up the bank, and nobody saw anything. And my buddy was like, "Oh, it must have been a cow." I'm like, "What? The cows are 600 yards that way. Why would there be one cow right here?"
Yeah.
And a cow doesn't, like they slosh when they run. It's like, it's not like a bop bop, like the feet coming down and the water separating. It was not. I didn't see it, but I heard it. Didn't think nothing of it. I was like, well, that was weird. That was some big feet. Ironically, like whatever that was hitting the ground or hitting the water was huge. And the water probably wasn't 2 or 3 foot deep right there, because it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a big pond anyway. But there was that, and that. Like I said, I guess fast forward until we bought this place, or not bought, but started hunting on this place we hunt at now. And it's like, was that the first time we ever went out there? It was like 2 weeks before deer season.
Yeah, well, you had just got permission, and
I
because
didn't
it's
even have time
on
to
that.
set a blind up. I was sitting under trees and
Yeah,
hiding behind rocks and stuff. Like we
we
were
went.
just seeing where all the food and water was.
Yeah, we just scouted a little bit, quick scout, look at the holes in the fences, seeing where crossings were, where the trees, where the food, the water, and all that. It was just kind of a quick thing. And go ahead and you tell what happened that day.
But so we're walking, and this ridge or this hill, it goes up one end and it makes like a horseshoe and comes back down over here. In the middle is a big V, I guess you'd call it. I don't even know. It's just a straight
like a
up
saddle.
hill. Yeah. And well, we're sitting there and we notice a tree oddly broken pretty far up. We're both looking like, that's weird. That's a pretty fresh break. It's green. There's not any other like limbs that had fallen and make that break. It was just in a weird spot. Like, it was pretty clear where that one little tree was. And as we're looking at that, his phone, Daddy's phone, is in his shirt pocket right here. He doesn't have like a vest or anything on like that. It was pretty warm that day. and his phone Siri says, "I'm sorry, I do not understand."
Huh.
And then we both look at each other. I'm like, "What was that?" He's like, "My phone's in my pocket." Like, there's no. And as he's looking at his phone, it sounded like you took a rock about the size of a softball. I'm just guessing, and you underhand lobbed it up and threw it over, and it plop, 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 plop. It hit, clacked off the other rocks, and was rolling down to us. And all this is going on, and he's like freaking out about his that happened, and his phone goes off, or his phone goes off, then that happens, and we're still trying to figure the tree thing out, and so we were like, let's just back out of here, and because that was weird. We were both like, what would be able to throw something? There's nobody in here with us because there's so many briars and bodock and just all kinds of weeds and stuff growing up all over the place that you can't walk anywhere without it getting snagged and scratching your clothes. So
Right.
you would hear somebody walking, like a deer can barely sneak through this place. Like a human definitely ain't. So it wasn't somebody there messing with us. And we're going through this while we're walking back or whatever. And then, I mean, that was probably the first thing that really got, what Spencer say? I
He's,
didn't even see it.
he said we hold out the good stuff for my show and don't go on his, basically.
I've said everything that we're talking about, everything that we've. Shut up, Spencer. Go bedazzle something.
Yeah. Y'all go, inside joke. Y'all have to watch Night Owls or Woodwalkers for that one. Go bedazzle something. But I go back to Bama. You know when you have things happen, and a memory will come back. You're like, wait a minute. No,
Yeah.
tell them about being. Was it the Elk River or Buffalo River?
It was the elk.
And what
It was
happened?
elk where the Richland meets the elk.
Okay.
And it
Oh,
comes in, and we
I
used
think
to
that's very
always
important.
camp there.
I think that's
And
important because a lot of Native Americans used to, use places like that. I had a guy tell me one time when another creek runs into another one. I don't know exactly. I can't remember why he told me, but that's like that behind Greg's. That one creek comes into other right there,
Mhm.
and you can cross over, whatever. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Peyton.
no, it's just it was right there. It's between we would put in Elkton and get off in Prospect, Alabama, and that was about halfway where the Richland Creek runs into the Elk. And we'd set up camp there. There was like a deep swimming hole, and then the creek was pretty good height too, or depth, and we'd fish there. But I remember one night it was so hot that I blew up a pool float. We would float in pool floats, like the lounge ones, and I was sleeping on that. And I thought I was dreaming, but I was not dreaming. I woke up to like a screaming. And I wake up and it's a full moon. And I remember looking up on the bank at being 7 or 8 years old. This bank looked like Mount Everest up there. I don't know actually how high it is now,
Yeah.
but I saw something standing up there looking down, and it turned around and walked off. And I was being little kid. I was like, just go back to sleep. It wasn't real. It can't hurt you if you whatever. So that I remembered that happening. Uh, and I remember for a long time, every time we'd go on that river, or like even if I spent all day on the water on any kind of boat, I would have like strange nightmares after the fact of not even some of them were drowning related, some of them were getting lost on the river related, but like some of them were just random. And yeah, that happened for a long time.
That's pretty strange too. For people that don't know, the Elk Rivers, if you were to take I-65 south, through Tennessee, like you're heading to Birmingham, it's right there close to the Alabama state line. And I used to bow hunt some private. I was never, when I retired, I wasn't that much into guns for a long time, understandably. So I got into bow hunting, and I would bow hunt with a buddy down there, and we would half the time, late September bow season when it's still hot and ticks and mosquitoes and stuff. So we would hunt the mornings and the evenings, and during the day we would float the Elk River, and we would fish the Elk River while it's a pretty substantial size river. I mean, we have lots of creeks and things named rivers around here, but the Elk River is a pretty good sized river. Big cliffs on each side, you know, it's just beautiful. Yeah, that's interesting. I want to get in.
If you look at some of the, you know, you want to look at reports, BFRO or whatever, they call it the Elk River Cluster on the BFRO
Oh,
website.
okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, they do. But I thought I would let y'all, you know, give y'all something to look at.
Yeah, it's funny because this was the same guy that I used to camp and hunt at LBL with for many years. Well, we worked together for 20 years. And Bigfoot's kind of the reason we had a falling out before it was over with. But you know, he's one of those guys. I'm not going off on a tangent here, but you know, he's one of those guys that, quote unquote, has been in the woods all his life, and he's a good bow hunter. Even on up in, you know, when we quit camp together, he's on up into his 60s by then, maybe, and you know, still really successful bow hunter. And I tried to get into those discussions with him a little bit after the first couple of things that happened up there. And he gave me all the same things everybody does. Well, if they exist, they should be hundreds of thousands of trail cam pictures of them. There should be this or there should be that. And it's kind of hard to explain to somebody that's not into it. It's almost like each new person you have to go through and dispel all the questions that have been raised by all the newbies. And I don't mean that as a bad word, but all the new people, because they really are the ones that ask all those generalized questions, you know, the ones that we kind of want to roll our eyes at, you know. Well, then why didn't you get it on video? You know, I hear that all the time. You saw one, why didn't you video it? Just, you know, those are just questions. So I wonder, you know, have you ever had discussions with friends or anything about this? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, one of my best friend's dad almost hit one in a Jeep.
no
And
kid?
he was scared that it was going to reach in and grab him. He could see the teeth and up the nostrils, and it went like that as he come around the curve. So I got my other buddy, the one that I told you at the pond. He told me the other day that he saw one. I don't remember the whole story. He told Daddy.
It
And
was 14 years ago, but the thing was
yeah,
they had never talked about this, and they were at a gathering, and somebody said jokingly, two people were walking across a field. It was getting dark. They said, "Hey, look, Bigfoot!" And this guy looks up and says, "They ain't big enough. That ain't Bigfoot." So Peyton is like,
yeah.
"Hey, you know, I need to
I
talk to you."
called Daddy and just gave my phone to my friend.
Yeah.
And I was like, tell him, he'll tell me later. And he said he walked up on it is what it was, and it stood up and it was way bigger and it screamed and all this stuff. But so I mean, I've had friends that have been out in the woods coon hunting and I never talked about Bigfoot a day in my life to this guy. And he told me, he was like, we were coon hunting, coon run down off in like a ravine bowl type thing. And he said, we started hearing screaming and tree knocks, like something banging on trees over on this ridge and over on this ridge, and chattering and screaming. And he said, we stayed there all night with our dogs, like until daylight. Like we didn't leave. And I was like, what do you think it was? He's like, oh, it was probably just cows stepping on the limbs or something. I'm like, that ain't what you said, though. What was it? And, you know, they're just, so yeah, very rarely actually have I ever had someone that argued with the idea of it. Because now, I mean, you know, this past year, I've flown more than I ever have in my life. And the way my mind works is while we're coming in over like Alabama and Middle Tennessee and stuff, I'm looking down. I'm like, that's a lot of woods compared to houses. That is a
Yeah.
lot of land compared to how far these houses actually are apart. And there's not a game trail camera on every single one of those ridges every 100 yards. You
Right.
know, there's not. There's just not. And yeah, so yeah, it'd be very easy to get across a human. I think could just
Well,
about get across if you mapped it out. You could get across one side of the state and never be spotted by someone.
well, Greg said we were talking yesterday, and we were the same subject. You know, it always comes up, and he said, "Look, you know, a lot of these things is 3 to 5 seconds. You know, very rarely more than that." And he said, if you had your phone where you carry it, and I told you to get a picture of me sneezing, and I'm gonna tell you before I sneeze, you ain't gonna get that picture.
That's a great analogy.
I mean,
Seriously.
well,
Well, it's
leave it
like
to
what do you
Greg,
say?
right?
What do you say? Throw you in a lion's enclosure at the zoo and say, "Take a picture of this."
Yeah.
He said
No.
you can get all the pretty pictures you want outside the lion's den. You throw you in there with them, and how many pictures you gonna get?
That's correct. That's a good analogy too.
You don't forget how to operate your phone.
No, I've always been, I mean, after I got into this and started trying to filter through there's just so much stuff, and have to go through. And uh, my favorite encounters, though, and I love Bigfoot researchers. I feel that they take up the whole bunch of slack that I leave, by doing their research and stuff. But I love those people that are didn't have Bigfoot on the brain, never thought about it. And I love those encounters, whether it be a roadside crossing or, a sighting or something like that. But, every once in a while, just like Greg House, he's a fine example. Or Mike Woolley, the late Mike Woolley, I can, Terry Arnold, people like that. Those are guys that were lifelong hunters. And even if they didn't hunt, they're just in the woods all the time as kids or whatever. And, then they have an encounter one day, just, out of the blue, and I have to, and that brings me to this question, because I'm a religious person. I was raised religious. I went to a religious college. Um, you know, did you have to cross any, religious hurdles or things in your mind when you started thinking, yeah, this is really something? I mean, because with me, I have to figure out where it fits in with God and the way he creates things. Yeah.
The way I kind of look at it is God made the whole universe. And the way I feel is if you think that we're the only little speck, only little rock in this whole thing, and there's nothing else anywhere else, what are the odds? It's almost slim to none that there's nothing else out there. And I've always been big into wildlife biology and stuff like that, and like watching the Nat Geo channel and all this.
Yeah.
We don't even know like what 10% of the ocean or something. And they're finding like new squids and stuff all the time. So like if they don't know that that's there, and you can't explore the woods all the time. So I was like, I never really saw it as like there's no way that it couldn't be. That like I would almost um like you feel like you're kind of being sacrilegious and believing in it, kind of, or like
Yeah.
something like that. I never really had that feeling because, I mean, he makes stuff you can't see all the time. But
I had somebody make the comment to me. They said, "Well, if God didn't create it, then it don't exist." And I said, "Okay, so if God didn't create it, what if something else created?" Now, I'm not saying that, but this is where my mind was going. And and over the past few years, and of course, I'm into this a little bit, not a whole lot, but you know, the stuff with the UAPs and the UFOs and them declassifying stuff and all that stuff. You know, you can ask some of the smartest people in the world, and they'll say we should be embarrassed to think that we're the only things here, you know, there or whatever. And the way that I handle that is I say, well, maybe God created other stuff out there. I mean,
Well,
I'm not so brilliant to think we're the only ones here, you know.
Bama, that's a great question because I did struggle with it. And finally, the way I dealt with it was it hit me, light bulb went off. Well, if it exists, then God made it, you know, and maybe we're misnaming whatever. Just we had a great comment, you know, people feel like the aliens might be actual demons, and you go back and read some of the Ethiopian Bible and stuff like that, and you know, even just this past week, I saw a what if, you know, the T-Rex. The T-Rex never has made sense to me because everything that I've ever seen that had arms could feed itself with those arms. And then I saw where they took birds that they know were birds and they look like mini T-Rexes.
Yeah.
And then this guy superimposed a dragon over the T-Rex, and like that was, and I was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. But that's why I always say, Bama, all this stuff we're talking about always leads back to the same place.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So anyway, I
want to get into the strangest story that Peyton has. And I think that I first heard you tell this on the Beast show a long time ago with Mark Newell and Larry Porch. But I want you to go into that. And I forget where that happened. You don't, of course, you know, you don't have to be super specific, but run through that for me one time.
All right. So it's summer night. It's me and my friend. He's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. My other friend and his girlfriend were sitting in the back. They didn't see it. They were too busy talking to each other. And me and him were talking to each other and listening to the radio and stuff, and then they were talking back there. So they didn't see it, but my buddy did. But anyway, there's a lake around us, and on the dam side, it's this weird S curve, and it goes up and then cuts back real sharp, and it gets flat for a little bit, and then you go on that side of the dam where the water would be on the other side of it over there. Probably 100 yards, 120 yards in front of us, we see the makeup of a dog, and it's sitting directly in the yellow line in the center of it, and its head is facing that way. So it's looking like this, head that way. And as he's pumping the brake and we're coming up closer to it, the light starts shining on it more, and I'm starting to notice things. I'm like, that dog ain't got no hair, but it doesn't look mangy. Like something mangy looks scabby and gross, and it almost looked greasy. Like
slick.
There's a dog. I can't remember the name of it, but it's an Egyptian dog. And
I know the exact one you're talking about.
Real thin hair, but they almost look bald, and they're real slick looking. But that's what this looked like. And it had like pointed ears like a German Shepherd, and they're facing the same way the head is. And as we're getting closer, this thing turns and looks at us, and the only thing it moved was its head, and it's looking. Well, we're probably now we're getting about 60, 50, 40 yards, getting closer. And I'm looking, I'm like, there's no eye shine. Why am I not seeing the reflection of the eyes?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting closer, it's not moving. And then we get so close where like it's feet in front of the bumper before it ever moved. And I noticed the eye sockets, there was no eyeballs in there. The eye sockets were out, or the eyeballs were out of the eye sockets, and there was just black behind the eye sockets. And right before we got to a stop, it stood up, its back leg, or its back, stood up, and it took 2 or 3 little trotting steps and jumped into the grass, which was about anywhere from waist high to chest high, and it turns to like this smoke comes up, and it's not like it's a little lighter than like a smoke bomb, like gray and like a real grayish black smoke. And I'm like, by this time we've already passed it, and I'm like looking at that through the passenger side mirror or window, and I look at my buddy. We both like look at each other at the same time, and he's like, "Did you see that?" I said, "I saw something. What'd you see?" He said, "That effing dog just turned to smoke." I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty much what I got out of it. Let's get out of here." And he had that Durango pegged out, and we were leaning it around all them curves and stuff. But I didn't go back. I might have Googled like
What kind of dog turns into smoke?
well, no, I Googled like what kind of like black dog turns into smoke, like Indian what do you call it? Stories or whatever,
Like folklore stuff.
folklore, yeah. So I Googled that, and I read that there was a dog, it was a hellhound is basically what it was, and it says if you see one, then a family member is going to die soon, or you are going to die soon. So I'm like, yeah, we wouldn't have enough digging. We'll put that away.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to know. And
but your granddad and uncle passed away not soon
year
after
I
that.
had
Yeah.
3 family members die within 3 months of each other.
Wow. And
So
that,
it was started in May, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and then October. So it was within from May to October. It was my
And-
great granddad, my granddad on my mom's side, and then my uncle. And he was 30, 35, I think, 36.
Yeah, and
But-
he didn't tell me about that right away.
Me and him didn't tell nobody. Like me and my friend, we're freaking out, and they're in the back seat. Like, what'd y'all see? What was it? We're like, nope, nothing, not a thing.
But see, that means a lot, because if you'd have just seen it by yourself, you might have thought you were crazy. But Peyton does the same thing I do. And I'm sure Bama does this. You know, if 3 people see something and he sees something, I'm asking them first to see if it matches up with what I saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not speaking first. I want you to tell me what you saw. And see
Right.
if it matches up. So
Yeah, I've done that before too. Yeah. There's several times I've had things happen to me, and now I could tell y'all, and y'all would believe me because you know I'm a honest, truthful person. I mean, I don't embellish stuff. I don't have a reason to. But a lot of times when I tell something, I will say the only reason I'm telling this is because I had several people with me that can corroborate what I was talking about, like, you know, light anomalies or things we've heard, or, you know, or even paranormal stuff, ghost stuff. You know, I've had only a couple of encounters with that. I was going to ask if you've ever had any, what you consider I would consider the dog, the ghost dog,
I kind of did too, and
paranormal.
I don't really. I mean, yeah, actually, I have a few things. So my mom buys this house on this like 5 acres of land or whatever, and me and her are sitting in the living room, and at the time her furniture was set up, so like the TV was on the same wall as the kitchen, and then there's like a 6-foot like walkway thing into the kitchen.
Mhm.
And from the living room, you can see the countertops and cabinets and all that. Well, me and her are sitting there watching TV, and you know those old the flip phone case clips that just clip onto your pocket or your belt or whatever? It was one of those, and it just like, it looked like something took and smacked it off the counter, and it went across the kitchen and hit the stove, which is probably 8 feet from it. And me and Mama both was like, we both saw it because it was like we saw it move, and then we saw where it left from and where it ended up, and we were both like, "What was that?" And um, this was back when my niece was born in October of what was that 2022? Day,
Sounds close, yeah.
something like that. But
Don't ask me specific dates.
but so my niece is born. My sister is still in the hospital, but my sister's car is at Mama's. They drove her car back because she wasn't going to be able to drive anyway, and they were just going to come back and get her. I thought she was home. I walked into my mom's house. My mom and my stepdad are sitting there watching TV, and they're watching Sanford and Son, and it's an episode where somebody's in court. I don't remember like everything, but I remember because the only reason I remember is because um, I heard what sounded like a baby crying,
Hmm.
and I come around the corner and I was like, "Is Keely and the baby home?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "You sure they're not in the room right there? Because I just heard a baby crying." And I rewinded the TV, 20 or 30 seconds back and listened, like went in the kitchen and listened to if there was something that sounded like a baby crying, and there was
Right.
not. There
Huh.
was not. That was crazy. And then it happened again 2 weeks later, but it was outside, and the baby was in my sister's arms.
And
Everyone heard that, and I'm like,
y'all
told y'all,
people
like
well, people say, we know bobcats and
somebody
we
said it
know
was the cat downstairs. I'm like, no, it was not. This was in the living room. What do you mean?
you know the difference. He called he was quick enough to catch I told them when they moved to that place that I'd seen 3 red wolves in the late '90s. They're rare, but I saw
Oh yeah.
3 of them. And when a female wolf turns and looks you in the eyes, you know it's a wolf. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no mistaking. So anyway, uh, he caught a wolf
Coming
howling.
right back.
Okay,
I'm gonna
but
close my shades.
okay, but so when people say, and I understand it, are you sure it wasn't this? You sure it wasn't that? But if you've been out as much as we all have, yeah, a bobcat makes a few sounds, it'll scare the crap out of you. I mean, I've been scared by those before, and then my dad's like, "Oh, that's a bobcat."
Well,
So
just
that's
saying that it's the cat downstairs. This what
yeah,
I heard didn't come from downstairs. What I heard come from in front of you, like in the living room over here.
Right.
yeah.
Or, I mean, and then I had um, I had a lot of weird feelings at my old grandparents' house. I used to every time I'd sleep in this one room, they saw stuff all the time, and of course, I didn't hear about this until I was grown, but they seen orbs come out of the laundry room and go through the walls and go out the walls and watch them disappear into the field and then in the woods. Um, there was stuff like that happening, and this house was old. Um, I used to sleep in one of the original rooms in the house. I think it was actually the old living room, and then they added on to it later and made the rest of the house. But um, yeah, it was that was very weird.
Man, this is a lot of stuff. I
Um,
don't know if I'd been able to sleep in that house.
I
I
didn't
don't,
much.
I don't
I didn't,
no.
and Mama was always wondering why I didn't want to go over there. What do you say? As you're 8, 9, 10 years old. I just get
Right.
weird feelings over there. They're not gonna. They don't want to hear that. But
Right.
I mean, I've had a lot of friends that have told me we've all shared stories. Sitting around fire and stuff talking. And um, there was 2 people. We were at a little. It wasn't a party. It was just a few people over, and we had a fire. And I told the dog story to some trusted people that were around me and that hadn't heard it yet. And well, one of my other friends was like, "That's crazy," because uh, during prom night, me and my date were driving back to our house or her house, and she lived on a back road or whatever. And he said, dude, we saw this deer that was sitting in the middle of the road, and it turned and looked at us over its shoulders, and it jumped straight up and never come down.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And then that's crazy. And then
Now,
someone at the fire was like, when was this? You said prom? He said, yeah. He's like, we saw the same thing at like 1 o'clock in the morning around the same area. He said it was a deer, and it turned around and looked and jumped up. He said this one though, the only difference is the second one was like walking across the road, and it looked at the car and jumped straight up and never come down. And
now,
four people saw it in the same night.
let me interject here. I saw something similar one night, but because I knew what it was, I was focused on it. It was there was a mountain lion sitting on the edge of the road, and there just happened to be a big tree there. And we came around the curve. This mountain lion jumped up and grabbed a limb and went on up in the leaves, and we went on. Now, if I hadn't been paying attention, because they're the same color as deer around here.
Yeah.
So, that could be, but, having several people, and let me, this comment right here, Joshua says, he used to be able to make animal noises really well. There's one thing I tell y'all about Peyton. Peyton knows animal sounds, and he can make animal sounds with his mouth. He's really good at it, and he recognizes things. We were out one night at a place we'll tell you about here in a little bit. And I heard a whistle, and I'm thinking, is that what I think it is? I was thinking Bigfoot, right? He looked at me. I said, is that a Bigfoot? And we heard the whistle again. And he said, no, that's actually worse. That's a mountain lion, calling for its young. He said, we need to get in a truck because it was close. So I thought, cats don't whistle. So what I do, Bama, I get home, I YouTube, I Google, and I'll be down if they don't.
It's like a chirp whistle, kind of.
Yeah.
So
if you talking about the whistling, I'm always reading. I read about science and animals, and just constantly reading about stuff all the time. But I was watching something the other night, and I think I did a show. It's been several years ago now, on something like is Bigfoot really that tough or something like that. And really what I was doing was comparing it to known animals and some of the abilities that they have. Like, most people don't know that a lion can run 50 miles an hour. I mean, you think about a cheetah, hitting 65 in about 2-3 seconds, but a lion can run 50 miles an hour. A dang buffalo can run 35 for a couple of miles. Or something.
A hippo can run like 45 or something.
Yeah. But what I found interesting was I got into animals that consciously hunt methodically as a group. Animals that specifically hunt together as a team, not as an individual. And that's like hares, hawks out in the desert, painted dogs, wild dogs in Africa. One of the most amazing are orcas, killer whales, the way they, I think we even had a video on that show where it showed them coordinate and get side by side, and they rushed an iceberg and caused a wave just to flip the seals off the other end.
Yeah.
To say, the show I watched the other night, there was a certain type of dogs. Now, of course, I was a dog handler for years, so I'm always into dogs. It was a certain type of wild dogs, not the wild dogs or painted dogs in Africa. It was a different type. And it showed them hunting and how they would spread out methodically, and they knew exactly what they were doing. And then they whistled to each other. And then it showed these dogs whistling, because, on these new Planet Earth documentaries, some of the footage that they have is unbelievable, but it showed these dogs whistling. And when it showed them whistle, it was like their mouths didn't open or anything. You could see the muscles in their neck do something, and it was just a single note. Just like that. That's all it was. And then on the film, you could hear them from a distance, other ones. and then you could hear the one that was on camera and see it whistling to the other ones. Yeah.
No, I was just waving at a couple people here living the
Oh,
dream.
okay.
I met him a few months ago. He's a cool guy.
So there's just so many noises and sounds out there, most of which are inside the Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, of course, the things you heard and the things I heard, I just couldn't figure out what it was.
Well,
this is
even
funny.
if
So one time I was deer hunting, and my blind, my stand, the way I've got it set up is I've got a lot of backdrop behind me to break up my
right,
silhouette and stuff, and then I've got my little camouflage tarp or whatever. It's more like cloth, but anyway.
right.
So sometimes deer get up on me and I don't even see them or hear them. But one time I heard like this, it scared me. I thought it was somebody in the woods that wasn't supposed to be there coughing. It was, ah, ah, ah. And I
Yeah.
look over and there's a deer choking on an acorn right here in front of me. And I'm thinking, what are the odds, of hearing that, like, because you associate that sound with a human choking, and that's what I thought it was. I didn't even know deer could do that. I mean, I've never heard that before, but now I know. If you hear choking in the woods, it might be a deer choking on a hedge apple or something.
And all this is great points, and we're just kind of, people that don't know you, they all automatically assume that, well, you must have had to have misidentified that. We're going to go through that Rolodex, like Bama says, a lot until we narrow it down.
Well, you go through it quick when it's happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
really.
was it that one time you heard something that sounded like a grunt? And we spent hours on YouTube looking up all the animals in Middle Tennessee, Southern United States area that make this grunt. And we went through like probably 500 different animals. And he's nope, that's not it. That's not it. Like, we never found, like, I didn't hear it, he did, but like, you're constantly, you hear something and you're thinking, it gets to where you can almost be like, boom, that's a whatever. But when you hear something you don't know, because you do know so many, it's like, oh, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that one mistake that people make, maybe it's not a mistake, but one thing that people do is they try to explain things away, or they try to rationalize things instead of realizing how tiny we are in this universe, And I mean, like I said, I read a lot on nature and science and stuff like that. They may go into the Amazon this year and find 20 different new species of things, frogs, bugs, birds, things like that. But see, that's all still in this world where we know everything and we think that we have identified everything. And it's just, not the case. It's not the case. I just tell people to try to keep an open mind. Always be open to the possibilities. Because once again, I'll come back to religion for a second. If I were to sit and try to explain the story of Jesus to somebody and told them, it's completely supernatural. I mean, isn't it? It is, and I believe it because we believe because of faith, but it's a completely supernatural story. And even sometimes, and I struggle with this and I pray about this too, when I think about it, sometimes I forget that it's history and it's not just a story. When I think about Jesus, sometimes I might make the mistake of thinking, well, he's dead and gone to heaven. No, he's not. He's alive and gone to heaven. And if you wrap that up, try to bring it back into perspective, it's one of the most far-fetched stories that ever is. But your faith is what is it, not your knowledge and things you know, things you hear, things you've seen. This is simply your faith that makes you believe that this thing is true. So I think that people should, have an open mind, don't count everything. Don't chalk everything up to. You ever had this when you was a kid? You saw something or heard something, and they said, "Oh, it was your mind playing tricks on you." You ever
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
And I don't think my mind's ever played tricks on me that I can remember my whole life.
No, I mean,
Or maybe it was just your imagination. You don't imagine a solid being, or you know what I mean? Are y'all following me on that?
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I use this example a lot. I'm like, imagine being the first guy, like you're down in the like tropics or wherever these things hang out, and you're hunting for food, and you come across this lizard, and you look at it, and its eye turns towards you, and it changes color to match what it's standing on. Or
Right.
you're the first guy, you're going fishing, and how do you run and tell the tribe that? Like, dude, so, or you're like the first guy that where they run fish up into these shallow waters and then they grab them pretty much, and you
Right.
mess up and grabbing an electric eel, and somehow this fish like stings you, burns you, or whatever from
Kills
just
you.
touching it, and yeah, you have a heart attack or whatever right there. So like, if that's real, how can you count on a lot of other things? You know, like
Right.
I
And
mean,
right now, y'all, where we're at right now, and the people that know, and the people that want to believe, and the people that are searching, everything right now is on the table.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can like wipe off the table, because every time you go do this stuff, if I'd have told Bama, hey, you're going to go out with a bunch of people and see a weird orb. If I'd have told him that 10 years ago, he probably would have laughed his tail off at me. I mean,
Yeah. It's nice to be with much easier when you're with a group of like-minded people. You know what I mean? Because you'll hear lots of strange stories. But the people we're around, they ain't getting famous by telling us stories, crazy stories. They're not becoming rich by telling us crazy stories. I try to take people at their word. Now I do like to dissect a good story and ask questions and things along that line. But like I said, I think open-mindedness at this, because you just said it, Roger. We're in a time where people are more accepting of this, and you can maybe even tell this to people that don't believe in it, because they may not believe in it, but they still have to hear it. Sasquatch is it's a part of our culture. I mean, it's a part of our world and our society, now, even if it's in pop culture.
and Variax always has good questions. I'm gonna read both of them.
Okay.
He said, "Is there a behavior of Sasquatch that makes you think they might be much more intelligent than most people realize?" I think we've heard stories from people we trust and things we've seen, but when they look surprised when they get caught, I feel like that's up there. Because my dog will look sheepish sometimes if he chews up my hairbrush or something, but
Oh yeah.
but you know what I mean? But this emotion that you hear people talk about in the face, leaving gifts because you left it something. If that's happening, that raises it a little more. Working together, either whether tree knocks, whistles, or whatever, to let others know that you're coming, that you're in the area. I've heard rock clacks. I've heard mouth pops. Me and Peyton had a terrifying experience with, I'll let him tell that later, but even the rock throw, primates will do that, but I don't know if a chimp has the mindset that, oh, I'm going to throw this rock, but I'm not going to hit him in a temple.
I
With
was
it.
going to say, he has the ability, but he doesn't have the accuracy. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I mean, really, a chimp, you watch gorillas, chimps pitching fit, throwing stuff, but I've heard people talk about, oh gosh, just having lots of rocks thrown at them and seemingly missing them intentionally.
Yes.
Not wanting to hit them with a rock.
Yep. And we all have a mutual friend that was going on, and one bounced a certain way and hit the guy, and all the rock throwing stopped.
Yeah.
You remember? And so here's another one, real quick. Many experienced researchers talk about entering the woods with respect and positive intent. Have you noticed any difference in your encounters when you consciously approach the forest that way, Peyton? The one on the south end, the way, you know, things have progressed, have been less from the rock throwing until now. It's kind of let us know it's coming, we think. I've actually we spooked it one night evening, and I put my hands up and spoke directly to it. It was in the dark, and like, look, hey, we're leaving. You can have the place, and to the fact that I think it knew we were supposed to be coming, and it met Peyton on a ridge one morning. And if you want to tell that story.
So, I mean, like most hunters do, you get out, before the daylight, before it's even almost daylight. So it was probably like 4:30 in the morning, and I'm walking up this ridge, and it goes up and it plateaus off, and it goes back up, and around the middle of where it plateaued, but the plateau even like comes over and then starts going downhill to the right. Well, I've got a pretty bright headlamp on that I got my flashlight right here, and I keep this light up for when my head's down. I can see. I don't have to move my flashlight constantly. I can just keep looking or whatever. And I look up and I see, again, it's like the bright reddish, orangish, yellowish mixed color eyes. And I'm like, first I'm like, dang, these cows are up here. It's going to get in the way of me hunting or whatever. I can't shoot, it cuts down my shooting lanes. And then I was looking at it, and I'm like, those eyes are pretty far apart and high off the ground to be a cow. And I'm like,
I hate to laugh, but somebody posted on the chat a second ago, we need to come up with a T-shirt that says, always blame it on the cow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, it's so. As I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I've stumbled up on one of these things, and I'm thinking, do I turn and run? Is that like, I don't know how to sound, whatever, like show weakness or become prey, whatever. So I literally said to something to this effect. I was like, I'm not here, you big SOB. I'm not worried about you. Like, I'm not here for you. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm just going to go up through here. And these eyeballs, it like turned. I saw it turn, and like I heard a hoof. And then I could hear it walking down, and I eventually didn't hear it anymore, and it walked off.
Yeah.
Didn't see anything that morning. Not the first thing. But yeah, I've never acted violently towards anything that will, first thing of deer, like hunting safety rule, like laws, rules, whatever, is know what you're shooting at.
Yeah.
So I've never been the type to think I see something and just start blasting shots or whatever. So never come in with like a violent mindset towards anything like that. And I mean, it's been mostly peaceful other than like the time that we walked in and it was like something was going absolutely crazy over. I mean, we got a bunch of tree cracks, and Daddy got some audio of vocalizations and stuff, and we're hearing it. And I mean, it sounds like it's breaking half dead, half alive logs this big. And then it sounds like it's breaking like alive sticks that big and just crack. Like, sounds like a 22 going off, flipping boulders. All of this, you can hear it pacing back and forth, picking up stuff and throwing it, and like mumbling to itself. And when he was like, put your gun down and clear your mind.
No. I didn't tell you. I was in a panic situation because we were well armed, and I felt undergunned. I'm like, I done walked in here, and my son's with me. What do we do? And so I was going to try something, and I said, Peyton, it's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, like, don't think of nothing, like on
Yeah,
Ghostbusters, like,
yeah,
don't clear your mind. That's kind of how it
right.
was. And I was going to try to put positive, speak positive, right? Because this is the point where we had something behind us, something over
I
here,
turned
and
around and looked, and it was like it was a pretty warm morning day, and I turned around and looked, and I saw what looked like a heat wave go in between a tree, or what, like between me and a tree, and the dark contrast of the bark for that split second. And I told him, I'm like, hey, I saw something behind us and all this. So then that's when we were like, he said, clear your mind, don't, think like I'm not here to hurt nothing or shoot anything or whatever. And it calmed down a minute or two after that.
yeah, he so I didn't tell him to put his gun down. And
No,
I know people are like, reason we carry stuff, guns and stuff with us, is because there's wild hogs, there's mountain lions. We don't want to hurt anything, but we don't want to be hurt either. So and that's the thing. If people say, well, they know your intentions, you shouldn't carry guns. Well, if they know why we carrying a gun, we should be fine, right? If that
Right.
that should be cool. Well, I told him to clear his mind. I don't know why I told him that. You can hear it on the video. And Mark Newbill pulled out some of the sounds, and there was a smaller one screaming in the distance. We heard it twice, but we didn't hear it the other two times. And Larry made fun of me. He said, "You didn't even hear those two." I said, "No." So, but anyway, when I told him that, for some reason, he set his rifle down, and I thought that was odd. And I said, "Hey, we're just curious. We're here, bringing you some things. We're not going to hurt you. We don't want to, and we don't want to be hurt either." And I felt this change in the air. I said, "Peyton, what are you feeling right now?" He said, "When you said that, the whole feel of the woods just changed, and we got one more loud green tree break, kind of like an acknowledgement." I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know if it was going to continue. That was and that was it. Everything calmed down, and ever since that happened, everything's calmed down there. When something does happen, talking to Kumbo, we feel like there's a mom, dad, and a little one, and I think it's male because Peyton can tell you what we heard. Which there's been so much, but tell them about us going with your ex-girlfriend and sitting around the fire and what happened to us that night.
so called her bluff, but like she didn't believe in any of this, and we had told some things that we had heard out there, and we were like, well, let's go, or she said let's go, so we went out there. Heard some things that there's like chains, there's not a chain out there, there's not fences, gates, nothing like that.
Yeah.
I think her and Daddy both heard like what sounded like you drop a chain and it like rolls up on itself.
Right.
Well,
something like that.
let me interject. We heard that immediately. But then she's sitting behind me, and we got the windows down in the truck. I heard what sounded like a bull, but with 2 feet and soft feet, not hooves, step off of one of those big rocks, and it went boom, boom, 20, 25 yards into the woods beside us. She's got her window down, and I said, "Did you hear that?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "What did it sound like?" And she said, "It sounded like as big as a cow, but it was 2 feet." See, I did it to her.
Blame it on the cow.
Yeah, blame it on the cow. There are no cows.
Squatch cows.
It's. I want to bring this up before we get past it. There's 2 people on here. Both of you at one time or another have acknowledged the woods and spoke into the woods. I've done the same thing, and I'm sure that the thing that caused me to do it was fear. And to the point to where I literally stood up in a chair at LBL alone many years ago. And I said, please don't hurt us. And I said, my dog is a sweet little dog. He wouldn't hurt you, and I won't. And we're just camping and enjoying nature. I said something along that line, and never heard anything else.
Mm-hmm.
After that.
And so Bama, does it make us feel better, or are we acknowledging that we know you're there? We're not here to, is it a respect thing? Well, I mean, I know you can't answer that, but
I think you just do it because you're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Now, my old hunting and camping partner, when I got more into this on my own after we'd stopped associating with each other and doing research and stuff, I started remembering stories that he had told me from that campsite years before I ever started hunting with him. And when he was telling the stories, it was, we're just a generalized conversation. And I believe that he had probably what was a bluff charge, take place. And because he said, when I questioned him, it's funny, he would forget this story when he would get to drinking. He would kind of forget the things we'd talked about from, a month ago. So I would ask him about the same thing over and over because I knew I'd get more details, the more that I asked him. And I finally got it down to the description of, well, it sounded like a car coming down the hill with a motor off and it's just in neutral, just kind of slowly cracking and crunching over trees. Now, all to say, he didn't stand up and go, please, leave me alone, but he went and got a .380 pistol out.
You gonna throw it at him?
Yeah, and that was his little pocket gun that he carried. And he got that little pistol out, and he had an on-top camper. And he's the type that if I weren't with him, he would sit out in a lawn chair in the dark with a headlamp reading. And I just can't do that. I don't know why. I'm just too nervous of a person to do that. When I was with him, I always had a fire. But he said, well, I just went to the camper, got that .380 out. And I kind of looked at him like, really? And he goes, yeah. And I came out and I said, get out of here. And he said, and I fired off a couple of rounds, And I said, and then what? He goes, nothing. I didn't hear anything. And I said, and on one of the times I questioned him about it, I said, well, what do you think it was? It's probably a couple of bucks up there, fighting up in that thicket or something like that. And I said, well, then why did you get a gun and yell, get out of here if you thought it was two bucks up in the thicket fighting? This is a thicket between our campsite and a cemetery. People that have been there with me know exactly where I'm talking about. But I just thought, I asked him, well, if it's $2 fighting, why'd you go get a .380 and come out with it and say, get out of here? So just, but those are things I look back on that he would tell stories as if they were naturally occurring stories. And I would look back on it and go, he may have had things going on there a lot, but simply like most people, because of his ignorance, and ignorance isn't a bad word. It just simply means that you don't know something or haven't studied up on something. I think simply his ignorance maybe kept him safe all those years, while he was camping and hunting there. Because he'd probably been going there 10 years before I ever even went there.
Well, how many times have you interviewed people or become friends with them and they get into this because of something really specific happened to them? And then they start learning about it and they're like, wait a minute, Peyton's done it tonight. Wait a minute. There's just one time. Yeah. But go ahead.
No, so I remember you asked me about, this is off subject. It clicked in my head. You asked me about paranormal stuff and all that on the same property. One time I was out there and before I had a stand. So I was more walk a little bit, stop, sit, watch, nothing, walk a little bit, sit, watch, stop, repeat, all that. And there's a little creek drainage area that comes down the hill, and I'm beside there's a pond. We're not 45 yards from where me and Daddy had the rock thrown. I'm sitting there and I'm listening. There's not any wind. It's perfect time, like perfect conditions or whatever. So I'm listening and I hear in what sounds like a adolescent young male's voice. It's not deep, it's not too squeaky, not too high pitched, but it was, this creek will make a nice spot. And I look up and I listen. I don't hear anything else. Like I said, to sneak in on somebody there is impossible, especially from the way they would have had to come. And
Right.
I yelled, "Hey, if there's anybody here, you're not supposed to be. Just leave now. And there's no problems. All this." Never heard nobody leave. Never heard nobody come in. I just heard that one line, "Hey, this creek will make a nice spot." And yeah, I don't know where that even come from. It sounded human. It didn't sound. I've heard some people say they hear stuff and it sounds distorted, robotic sounding or something.
Right.
I've never that, or not that time, or I've never heard that, but yeah, definitely not that time. It was
Tell
definitely like,
tell us about when I missed all those phone calls when you were laying down with the bipod down about to take a doe, and what happened
I
to
wasn't
you.
about to take a doe. So the side of this hill right behind my deer stand goes down, and then in front of it, it goes down and then back up. It's in that same area. So I'm looking, it's like 250 to 280 yards, depending on what angle you're looking at. And there's a doe directly in front of me, just outside of the, I would say wood line, but it's more like a little thicket brush area. And I don't know what caused this, but there's like a little flat area up there that's like water or something has washed out. And you could go up there and sit, and deer sit in that spot because they can put their back against the almost like a wall there. And I've seen them laying there a lot of times. So there's a doe laying there, and I can see her. All I can see is her, the white patch under her neck right here, and her eyeball, the whites around her eyeballs. And I'm looking in my scope, and she's sitting down and looking around and stuff. And every now and then she'll like snap her head one way, and I'm like, ooh, well maybe there's like a buck or something gonna come in the way she came in or whatever. So I'm looking up behind her. Well, she turns and doesn't look right at me, but looks at about a 45-degree angle to what would be my left up the hill. And I heard what sounded like um, a hedge apple hit the ground. Thud. But there's no hedge apple trees in the center right there for one to fall out of a tree. So I'm thinking something threw that,
Now, for
something
people who
lobbed
don't
that.
know, a hedge apple is hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, bigger than a softball, and those things are rock hard. And one day, Roger, I'll tell you a police story involving hedge apples.
Okay.
I
But
can't tell this on the air.
so I'm looking at her through the scope, and she stands up and is looking towards, like turns towards whatever she's focused, and I've got my scope turned up all the way on her, and I can see her eyes like getting big, and her ears are facing that way, like she's focused in on something. I was like, maybe there's bucks fighting up there or something. I don't know what's going on. But then I hear what sounds like a huge hand just smack, like the soft, wettish ground thud.
Huh.
I'm like, okay, is that a cow? No, I'm kidding. So I'm like, that was big. And it does it a few more times. And I told Daddy this. It was like something came in my head, like I can't remember verbatim what it was. It was like not here to hurt you, or it was my voice saying it though, but to me in a weird kind of like I'm thinking, well, it was like I thought it, but also it was put there if that makes any sense.
Right.
So I'm watching this doe and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's hunting her and it's pissed at me or whatever. So what is you're deer hunting and you spook a deer? What is the number one 100% of the time that a deer, especially an adult, grown, mature doe, is going to do when she runs?
Flag off.
Flag that tail. This deer, I'm watching her through the scope, and when everything quiets down, she kind of gets low. She doesn't flag. She doesn't bolt. She creeps through these little interwoven paths they have over all this grown stuff, and I'm getting her like she'll disappear for a second, and then she'll come out into a clearing, and she never run, not one time. She creeped out of that thing, and when she got on the top of that hill, she unassed down the hill and
Yeah.
was gone. Like she didn't flag though. She never raised that tail up to
Right.
let anything. And I've never seen that before. And I'm
Um,
thinking that's insane. Like
he
I've
told
I've
me I'll go to tell y'all what he because he's caught between this thumping on the ground and this deer acting weird and looking back behind him, and he's laying on the ground on his stomach. And I said, "Well, what's going through your
I got
head?"
a bipod in my backpack, like up and under, like laying down like that.
And you got this this I don't want to say mind speak, but this thought that comes into his head that was weird. I said, "What were you thinking?" He said, "I thought I was going to turn around and one of them big SOBs was going to be standing there looking at me."
Yeah.
But
Like
y'all
he
gonna
like
yeah, go ahead.
thicket being right here and then it towering over like the thick stuff behind me or
Yeah.
something. Like I just could see that in my head. Like I'm gonna turn around and that be there. But yeah, dude, I've never seen a deer get spooked and not flag like for at least a second. I mean, she never, and that was the weirdest to me. Like that's ingrained into her DNA. Like from the time she was born, following her mom, she is like it's hardwired into her head to do that, and she didn't for some reason. Why? That's where my head went. Like, what did she see? Did she associate that thumping sound with something getting picked up and thrown against a tree, like a deer of her, whatever, like
And didn't you
a
tell me
deer of her herd or something?
didn't you tell me you felt the vibrations while you're
Yeah, I
laying
could
on the
feel it
ground?
in my stomach and my legs and stuff as it was pow, pow. Like I could feel that shake in the ground, and like the gun from where the bipod was on the in the ground, kind of like you could feel it all vibrate. And
That's big.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
That's big.
it absolutely sounded just, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Like you got like a big, imagine like if you had a tampon bar, like the thing you flatten out dirt with, but it sounded like it was 4 feet wide by 4 feet, and you were dropping it from about 5 or 6 feet up.
Uh,
That's
That's
the only thing I can really.
and
And
y'all,
I heard the
he
same thing, but it was on a stump, and this sounded like a rock. Like it was. I tried to send this video to Daddy, but I was so worked up. He's, I can't hear anything over you breathing, and it was like boom, boom, boom. But and like I told some people about it, and they're like, "You sure it wasn't like a post hole digger or a post driver?" I'm like, "No, that's like a digger, 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 digger. Like that's a hydraulic
right. Yeah.
type metallic sounded. This sounded like a flat rock on the top of a piece of flat wood, and like the wood was pretty big because there wasn't much give to it. You know what I mean? Like it didn't sound like there was much give, like it was a stump or something. I heard that there. I've heard. I take this was weird. So I usually always have service at this area, and one morning it was about 4:30, 4:30, 4:45, sometime in there. It's dark, pitch black, can't see anything, no birds are up, nothing. And I told Daddy I heard what sounded like a mix between like a bull and a like a chimp or a gorilla like screaming a long ways away, a few ridges over, and it just echoed. I didn't get the vibration of it. It wasn't that close.
Yeah.
But daylight comes, and there's a little Cessna plane circling around, and I've never seen a plane fly over this area, and I lose service. My phone goes out. Like it's SOS.
Huh.
So I finally get to the very, very top of the hill, and that's a long, hard walk. I mean, Daddy knows, he's been there once or twice, but it's steep and it's through over the top of dead trees and everything. And I finally texted Daddy what all was happening, and he was like, "I'd probably get out of there if I were you." You know, like that sounds crazy. And it wasn't like the plane. I don't know. I don't even know if the plane and the sound have any correlation, but it's just like in my head, like nothing happens for no reason.
Right.
I hear this sound. As soon as you'd be able to see something from the sky or whatever, so like this plane starts circling. And why is it circling? You know what I'm saying? Like usually
Right.
they go to one place to another. They don't hang around in one spot. I don't know. I've always had service there. Don't this one particular time I don't. You know, I just weird, undescribable things, I guess is
But
the only way to describe it, man. I don't.
it does make your brain automatically associate the two things together. That kind of
Yeah.
like we've heard vocals and at the same time saw, a bright light in the sky, come falling down. So, I mean,
What are the odds it happened at the same time? Like
it has to be a pretty good, still an assumption, but it has to be
Yeah.
a pretty good assumption that the two things are related to each other some way.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the place you're talking about is known for super weirdness anyway. I mean,
Yes. And this is at the Field of 13 Howls is where this
Mhm.
happened. And that's the first and only not light anomaly I've seen there. And once again, and I'm telling the story because there's probably 10 people standing there, watching it that night when it happened.
So y'all, this is my wife Heather. She's watching, and she's been with us a lot, and she's had everything happen with C1.
Sorry to run
Yeah.
us off the rails like that.
No, you're good. No,
Oh,
this is
no,
I gotta
we're
get them out or I'll forget them.
no, but so this place here, I'll set it up. It was Peyton, me, Heather, and Peyton's ex-girlfriend, and we had a fire going, and I'd been recording for about 3 hours, and it got on up into the morning, and I cut my recorders off and threw them in the truck, and we weren't going to leave without putting the fire out, and I didn't want to burn half the county down.
And the
So
reporters were
for the activity we've had there quite a
Okay.
bit, right?
So y'all were there specifically for that.
Right, but
Okay.
we're sitting around the fire talking. We're
Yeah.
trying that tactic, right? If they want to show up, they show up. If they don't, that's fine.
And I remember it
So
being a pretty active night. Like we were hearing bullfrogs, the whippoorwills and stuff like that. Like it was. You remember,
whip-
like we could hear the whippoorwills and the bullfrogs and like all the birds at night
it
and owls and stuff.
Yeah.
stirred up, and
Yeah.
this place is where Peyton. I told him to do an owl call one day, and he can call the barred owls in. They'll come in and they're kind of curious or whatever. And that's the day we heard our 300-pound owl sitting on the ground with us, and it was horrible.
Like it was awful.
It was crazy.
Wow.
We looked at each
Like,
other like,
I was like, well, first of all, I told Daddy, I was like, that was on the ground.
yeah.
That was not like up in the
Yeah.
treetop.
Uh-oh, my light just went out. I hope it didn't get hit by lightning. Hold on. All right,
It's like
go
you're
ahead.
getting hit by lightning.
Woo,
Well,
I just got
still-
dang, my head just started hurting.
You're going to sell it's infrasound.
Oh yeah, and dang cows.
A cow.
So we're sitting there in the dark. Me and Peyton, our backs are the woods are 25 yards away, 30 yards away, and it's a hayfield.
It's
hay.
anywhere from it's like the closest is like 25, and then it's a long field. So we've also got woods like 85 yards away on that back side over there. And we're sitting there. I've got my back to the woods where we heard it from, and so does he, but his back is more turned to it than mine is. Because didn't you say you heard it out of both ears? You
What?
said you said you heard it from both sides, and I only heard it from this one ear. That's why I stood up.
It was
and-
rattling my head. I mean,
Yeah. And it was the craziest, loudest, most unhuman scream I've ever heard in my life. And I don't even, the best thing, like Daddy said, it was like, the way to describe it was like you tied somebody up and shaved their shin bone meat off and made them listen to Bohemian Rhapsody for 9 hours a day,
Yeah.
all day. Like it was like,
no, okay. There was 4 of us there. I asked these other 3 for months randomly, have you figured out what that was yet? Do you have anything that you can compare it to? No. And for the first split second, it sounded male. And then when it went up and peaked, it was, I don't know what a banshee sounds like, but if I had to put a label on it in my memory, that's what I'm going to say a banshee sounds like. Now, we got a picture. It's hard to tell. We were sitting there one night, Peyton and I, we liable to go at any time, and hang out there. We had the windows down, and he looked at me. He said, I just heard 2 footsteps cross the gravel access road right down here. So I got my camera on night mode, and I'm raising above the truck taking pictures, and I'll look. About the 4th picture, there's a hay bale out there. About the 4th picture, something's there, and looks like it has a surprised look on its face, and the chest looks like it's really broad. Now I sent it to Doug.
Head.
Yeah, but the surprised look.
Bald head.
Yeah, and so I sent it to Doug, and I was like, hey, he's a camera expert. I'm like, can you go over this and make sure this is not some kind of anomaly in the, whatever. And he looked at it and he said, no, I think something's there. He said, I can't tell exactly what it is, but, who knows? Who knows what, I know what it looks like. And it's the same field that we had this hellacious scream. And you talking about putting people on the move. His girlfriend at the time, her feet hit the ground, and the next stop, she was in Peyton's truck and locked him out. So, I always carry an extra set of keys, fellas.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
But I tell you what she did. She wouldn't talk about it. Scared, absolutely terrified her. But at the meet and greet, the first meet and greet when you met us, Bama, she was sitting on back of Peyton's truck on tailgate. Spencer came up, and because she was around a bunch of people that wasn't going to make fun of her, I said, hey, you want to tell Spencer about what we heard that night? And Bama, when somebody's recalling something terrifying, they look off into space, right?
It's like a visceral effect.
She's not focused on us. She's looking off into the distance. And she said it was the absolute loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. And Spencer looked at me and kind of shook. He saw the look too.
Yeah.
He noticed it. You know how Spencer's in tune with all that. But she started talking about this stuff and stuff that had happened while we were there. And I didn't interrupt her because she never had spoken a word back home. And I figured this would be good for her to get it out, and she did. Once she started, it was like a waterfall or snowball effect. Mm-hmm. She let it all out, and I think it was good for her. But she called our bluffs, or she thought we were bluffing, or we called her bluff. She said, well, let's go right now. Well, we went, and we ain't been there, a minute, 2 minutes when y'all heard the chain, the metal sound. So anyway, Bama, you got any more? Go ahead. I've kind of messed you up here, but
no.
There's so many.
See, a lot of the stories that Peyton knows, and there's a lot of these I haven't heard. And
so, okay, we go to Greg's for not the first time, but when the water's down, and we like, hey Greg, can we go down there and just look for tracks or whatever? He said, I don't care. So Peyton and I'll let you tell this story.
For people who don't know, you're talking about Greg's man cave, right?
Yep. Yep.
If you're standing, Greg has a covered porch on the back of the man cave, and it goes out and makes a slight slope off of a hill, maybe 20 yards, and then it turns to woods and drops significantly down.
Mhm.
I mean, it is it's a typical Alabama deep holler, we say.
Yeah. And then
Looking down there. Yeah.
And what's on the other bank?
And when you get down, when you get to the bottom of that, you're actually coming to Brushy Creek, which comes out of the Bankhead National Forest there.
Yep. So you can see Bankhead National Forest from his back porch.
Right. Actually, when you turn into his driveway, there's one of those big brown national park signs. You know, the generic ones that all look the same, just names are different.
Yep.
Welcome to Bankhead National. William E. Bankhead National Forest.
Yeah, Peyton. So we asked, hey, you mind if we go? And we knew the rules are you don't bang on stuff, you don't holler, you don't scream, and all that.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
Can we go down and just look for tracks? The water's down. I knew this will be a perfect time. Peyton, you can pick back up.
So we get down there. I mean, we've taken maybe 5 steps into like the sandy bank area, and I immediately notice it's a footprint, but it ain't but like that big.
Mhm.
And it's deep though. Like I've got it on like a 3D imaging. What do they call that?
LiDAR.
A LiDAR picture on my phone, and you can see the toes where they're going down, and like the weight has pushed them sideways, kind of, and it slid when it stepped, and then the weight of it stopped, and there was like 2 or 3 of those, and then they just stopped, like something picked it up and moved it.
Yeah.
And we found some bigger ones too, but they were in the more wetter, compact sand. But there was one of the small ones. It had 3 fingerprint marks where it looked like in the sand it just stroked like that.
Yeah.
Like
Or
a
something,
kid
like
might
something.
be.
Yeah.
And it looked like a bigger one. Bama had sat down and laid over on its side. It left an impression.
Yeah.
What, 4 foot,
Mhm.
3.5, 4 foot. And then it looked like the little one had taken its fingers after it got up and was just kind of playing. And we could specifically see 3 finger, and it was no doubt it was finger drags. I mean, there was no doubt. Well, tell them we're kind of speeding along here. We'll try to, and y'all, I do this to kind of document things. And I know y'all hear me talk about stuff all the time, but I want, if Bama and I go somewhere and we do something happens, I want him telling it with me, so Peyton doesn't do this much. So other podcasts, he's been asked a bunch. He just don't, I mean, it's up to him, but anyway, so we go back 2 years later. This was last year. Water's down, perfect time again. Tell them what happened to us this last time.
And tell Cryptic Crystal I'm from Alabama.
He's one of them Bama boys. Yeah. Now, Cryptic Crystal, you met him, didn't you, at the meet and greet?
Yeah, I've met her and her son at
I
think two or three different camp outs.
Yeah, you probably had long hair back then.
I did. Yeah, it was long.
But Peyton,
Well, we were walking
go
down
ahead.
there, and we looked across the river, and you could see it looked like an alligator slide, where like an alligator will slide into the water down this bank, because it's kind of a steep bank down there, and where something walked through the water and almost like it was shuffling, but there's like a black film on top of the sand there, and you could tell it disturbed that, and it flowed down with the water, and some of it stayed, but it was definitely like you shuffled across the bottom of a sandy river that had like dirt sediment on top of the top layer of sand.
Yeah.
And then we found like this was weird. We found like drag marks. They were probably like, some of them were like that wide and some of them were wider. And it looked like there were no footprints. It looked like something was dragging a stick to maybe cover up its tracks or something like that. That was weird.
There was no. The first
Um,
thing I thought was like, are there gators here? And but if a gator is dragging its belly, I assume you're going to see the
Yeah.
footprints, right?
Mhm.
well, and I
Propelling.
thought armadillo too because I've seen armadillo tracks in mud, and their tail drags behind them.
Right.
But I was like,
Like a
armadillo
snapping
tail's not
turtle.
that wide, yeah. But there were no other kind of claw marks or hoof or it wasn't a cow. Like,
Okay, shut up. It's in the cow. But but we're looking. So we're looking to the right. I think it's upriver, Bama, and
So you're looking north.
we're looking north.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we get hit with this funk,
oh
this
god,
smell. I only way I can describe it is when rubber is about to catch fire. It's hot rubber that it had a stench like that, but it wasn't quite that either. And you could almost taste it. It was on the air. I did a quick air check, and
with
so I
also
looked.
some like human bodily odor smells too.
Yeah, yep,
It was nasty.
and yeah, and we checked.
I was,
You could taste it. It was,
yeah, it was bad.
but anyway, then we had something cross the river up there that we couldn't see. I didn't recognize the sound. It sounded like kind of like a mix between a goose and a dog. But Peyton, he said the cadence is wrong. That's totally wrong. I don't know what that is. I've heard sandhill cranes. I've heard all these birds. I didn't. The raspiness is what made me compare it to a goose, but it didn't sound like a goose. And I'm
Very weird.
wondering because we know that there's a little one had been down there, before we found the tracks. I wonder if we freaked the mama out and the glands released like a gorilla. We've heard people say that. But I can't describe that. The only time I've ever tasted a smell other than that, when I always tell people I had a male mountain lion pee in my mouth, but it's not really what happened. We, we, we went through it after you sprayed and it got all in my mouth. But anyway, but Peyton, we're at 2 hours. We could talk about this, y'all.
I
I,
was going to say this, but y'all talking about Greg's place and down on the creek, people listening, they may think that you're coming up with different things or trying to figure out things. Well, once you realize the property and the history of the property, and the history of the property comes from a one Greg house, then it makes you look at things differently. Let's just put it that way. That spot they're talking about along the creek down there, it actually flattens out at the bottom to the point to where when I was visiting Greg, he said, I'm thinking about putting a cabin down there, maybe a couple of little small tiny homes. People can, people maybe rent them out like an Airbnb or something. And I just wanted to laugh. Now, let's bear in mind that on Greg's, where his man cave is, there's a family that lives right there close to him. And they have a house trailer there. They have a little small, I call it a tiny home, but it's basically a shed that they've outfitted into a home. And they're less than 50 yards away. And I've asked Greg on several occasions, have those people ever said anything? He said, they've never said a word. They've never said they've seen anything. They've never said they've heard anything. And his man cave property is notorious. But I kind of cracked up when he said, well, I'm going to get a couple of, he's got one of those big metal storage containers, on his property, and he's got another one buried underground as a storm shelter.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm thinking about setting a couple of those down there on that creek, man, and renting them out. And I just said, the only people you're going to be able to rent them out to is Bigfoot people. I said, you send some people down there that don't know anything. There's no telling what might happen down there.
And the thing is, look, we're not just talking about one or two things. and we're not talking about just a couple people. There's been a lot of researchers, a lot of people had different things happen, and it's not. We were back there when Greg and Peyton and I, we went down to visit. It was dark, it was raining, it was foggy, and we couldn't do anything. So we're sitting out on the back porch, and I won't sit there in total darkness because
Dude, I would. Hey, I'm telling
Flat
you
Rock.
right now, while you're talking about it, I love to start a fire in a little fire pit and sit around, and he's
Yeah.
got a fire pit he's got a fire pit not 10 feet from the steps of the back porch. I wouldn't sit at the corner on that porch
no,
at night with him out there.
no,
And
and
we're
Flat
armed.
Rock.
We is armed.
Yes, Flat Rock. I tell you, he had a frightening. We were on a kind of like a Zoom call. We were in Flat Rock when he was at Greg's. He went out to smoke a cigarette, and he come in, and Greg's talking, and he says, he looks over at Flat Rock, and he said, "You all right, Flat Rock?" He said, If you scare Flat Rock, you've done something, because Flat Rock deals with this stuff all the time.
I haven't seen anything there or heard anything there, and I wasn't psyched out about the stories there.
Yeah,
it wasn't any of that. It was, and I love to sit out at night and listen to the night animals and stuff like that. And man, I couldn't wait to get inside. And
I know how you
when I
feel,
did
man.
get-
Like the last time we were there was such walking to the truck was such like this heavy, and that's only happened to me one time, and it was that last time we were there. We left at like 2 a.m. Me and Bree did.
Yeah.
And it felt. I took the truck. I went out, got the truck, and almost pulled it up on Greg's ramp right there. 'Cause I did
right
not
at the
wanna
front door.
walk between vehicles or anything like that. I think I went out to get something actually at first, and I was like, I don't want to make this walk again, so I'm gonna move the truck. And it was just like you threw like a weighted blanket on you or something,
Right.
and it's just like and then you get out so far and you can't see anything because the light behind you only goes so far, and then you're on the edge of the darkness. I know, I didn't like that.
And Peyton has seen a couple things there. The one when me and Joe Parker was behind you, Bama, you step off the porch, go past the little metal building and that trail that goes up.
Right.
Okay, so it was getting dark.
Which actually leads up to a small subdivision up the hill there, surprisingly enough.
But that side and right there and to the left down the little lane, I would probably bet $100 that the Bigfoot ain't climbing that bluff. They're coming either over here or leaving and coming these two ways.
Yeah.
I was walking up. Joe was beside me, and it was starting to get a little, you can still see good, but it's just starting to get dark. And, I know Peyton. I've been, I know him. And he was up above us about 15, 20 yards, and he has stopped, and he's pointing like a bird dog. He's looking. And I see him rocking to the left a little bit, and he's rocking to the right. And I punch Joe. I'm like, and Joe yells out, "What do you see over here?" He was trying to be quiet.
Yeah.
But tell him what you saw that day.
It looked like shoulders crossed. That's all I saw. It looked like shoulders went from one side of the path to another behind the tree and down, gone.
Yeah.
And that's why I was moving to try to see if I could get a view of it crossing between trees or something, but it was like a split second. It was black, and it just...
For people listening, when you're walking up that path, to your left is a drop off that goes straight down to the creek, and to your right is heavily wooded. You can see through there pretty clear. But the thing about Greg's is, like a lot of Alabama, is surrounded by pine trees. And around Greg's place, literally, is feet and feet deep of pine straw from years and years and years. So nothing makes a noise when it walks up there.
He has to control burn it so he doesn't set it on fire by flicking a cigarette butt out
the porch
or something.
I stayed in that bedroom on the one side, and I thought, man, I'm just gonna crack this window, and I couldn't sleep with the window cracked because the bottom of the window was only 2 or 3 feet from the pine straw, and I thought I just can't sleep with that dang window, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm laying in there, and there's 2 AR-15s on that one wall, just in that room.
A shotgun.
Some other stuff, and of course me, I'm armed, and Greg's in the other room. I think Greg couldn't sleep very well because of pain then too, so he was sleeping in that recliner in there. Well, he's literally in there with a bunch of guns, So I thought I eventually got to where I wouldn't even sleep with the shade up. And this is what's funny is the shade was down, so it's pitch black in there. And I put a fan in there so I'd have a little bit of noise. And I kept waking up and looking at my watch, and it was like such and such clock. I don't remember what it was. Well, my watch had gone dead for some reason.
You just stuck in like this time loop or something.
My watch went dead. So every time I'd look at my watch, I go, "Oh man, it's only 4 o'clock in the morning, man." And the next thing I know, I reach over and like pull that he's got blackout shades. They ain't even shades. He made them himself to
like
black out the room.
Or something, ain't it?
Yeah, and when I pulled the shade back, the light was just glaring in. I'm like, Greg. He's like, yeah. I'm like, what time is it? He said something like 9 o'clock or something. On up in the morning for me. But I didn't sleep well at all. There.
I don't think I could either, dude. There was one time we were out there, and I caught a glimpse of something walking in front of the door. Fast, right in front of the front door.
Yeah.
And I think I saw it in a reflection out of a mirror. There's a mirror somewhere that I saw, or something like I can't remember what it was. It might have been a knife case or something. I don't remember exactly what it was.
What do you think that door's probably 5 feet off the ground?
Yeah.
With the ramp going up to it?
And cars right off of that. And whatever it was tall enough that I saw literally just out of the peripheral, just swoop by the door, go by the door. And I asked Greg about that, and he said that Kumbo actually got a good glimpse of one doing it like 2 weeks before or something. And that was the same night. And I'm just like, dude, I don't want to walk. I'm gonna stay here because I don't want to walk out to my vehicle at 1:30 in the morning or something to leave. And then I'm always scared that I'm gonna backing out, and as the headlights are panning,
which
in
is
those woods or whatever, that there's just one standing there and whatever. But
and y'all, this is a place to where people have had encounters when they're going out to leave to their vehicle, and I had to go out to my vehicle probably a couple of times when it was dark.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I do. Peyton can confirm this. If we leave 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I open the door and look both ways, and I said, "We're going to the truck. Don't throw anything at us, please. We're not going." I really do. It makes me feel better. I don't know, and I know people that don't know Greg's stories and the things that have gone on there. I found a hair. We found several hairs on the door. He said something tried to open my door last night or 2 o'clock in the morning. I go over there too. Yeah, I go over and start scanning and looking, and there's hair, and I won't get into it, but it matches up. If something was standing on the other side of the rail and reached across, everything matched up.
I asked him when I was there. I said, "Man, did you lock the doors?" He just kind of looked at me like I was crazy, But he goes, "Man, don't think those things won't come up here and rattle the doorknob."
Yeah. Or one of the scariest ones I heard was when he heard one outside, and it was pushing on the bedroom wall, and he could hear the wood cracking a little bit.
Well, they've got on the roof there. I went up shortly after. Who was Greg? I'm so sorry, I can't remember this. Who was Greg's friend friend that passed away here not too long
Alan?
ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Alan, you know, the story with Alan where he was visiting for Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. And they'd been over at Greg's house having a get together. Well, he went back to the man cave by himself. Now, the man cave's a few miles from Greg's house. I want everybody to know that. It's not like on his property. But Alan had gone back and parked, walked up the ramp to the front door, and put the key in it and heard a grunt and turned around, and one was standing with its hands on top of the big propane tank, one of those big giant propane tanks, you know, standing looking over the top. And of course, he called Greg right after he got in there. But I went sometime after that, and you know me, I'm always dissecting crime scene and stuff,
Right.
you know, and I'm out there with a dang camera and a tape measure, and because I wanted to know how far he was from this tank. And when I walk behind that tank, the way it is on the hill, I'm 6 foot even. When I walk behind the tank hit me about here on my chest. And this thing was standing over the tank with its hands down on top of it.
And when I went around the tank, just to, like you said, I was just wanting to see what was back there.
Yeah, all pine straw.
And it dips.
Yeah.
It dipped. And then you walk off down to the that little access road too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know.
But there's a few little roads there behind that tank. It drops into a little shallow hollow, and then, like you said, there's a road runs through there, and you know, that's easy access. And with all that pine straw, man, you can just ease right up there, you know, without making a noise. Well, y'all, I reckon we better let everybody go.
Yeah, I got something going on outside. I don't know what it is.
All right. I appreciate y'all, and to everybody in the chat, I really appreciate y'all. I love you. Y'all are like my family.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming on, and you know, it's made it so much better, because if I'd have done it by myself, it just wouldn't have been the same. You came up with some great questions, and
well, I appreciate that.
And there's a lot more we could talk about, but you can get overloaded too with some of this, and it sounds like, oh my God, they're telling.
It's like being in a meet and greet to where somebody tells a story, and oh yeah, and then somebody else tells a story, and it's like Kale said one time. She goes, you know, I know it's not like this way, but it's like people one-upping each other. And she goes, but they're not trying to. Yeah. It's just that each story just gets more, you know, if somebody says something, the next person's story is, it happened to me, and there's something crazier that happened. But
and that's what's good about talking about it in groups like that, because it'll remind you of something. Oh man, yeah, I know it. Yeah. But it's comforting too, to like, oh, that happened to you too. I was wondering that. I thought I was crazy. You know,
man, like-minded people, it's good to be around. You know.
Yeah. Y'all, Peyton, I know you got to work tomorrow, so be careful out there, and holler at me when you get off. We might sneak out to the north end hotspot tomorrow night if you want to. But he ain't committing, y'all. He ain't saying nothing. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you, Bama. Have a good night.
All right, love y'all.
Talk to you later, Peyton. Everybody in chat, thank y'all so much for being here. We really enjoy y'all, you know, interacting, and my chat has been messed up a little bit, so I haven't been getting all of them. But anyway, here we go. Bye-bye.
Down in the pines where the water runs black, where the moss hangs low and the night leans back. The stories whisper about a shadow tall, big feet moving where the moonlight falls. Some say it be, some say it ghost in the trees. Some say trouble blowing in with the breeze. But around here, man, we know the call, or we just call them friends of Squatchin Holler. So light that fire, let the cattail shake, hear the night birds cry and the copperheads wait. If you hear a howl in the Georgia fall, there ain't no wind and it ain't no dawn. When the creek runs cold and the shadows get taller, yeah, you're but you live in Squatchin Holler. So light that fire, let the swamp drum roll. You can hear that beast right down in your soul. If you hear a grunt from the river fog, it ain't no bullfrog barking at all. When the swamp runs still and the crickets get softer, you're not alone in that Squatchin Holler, where the brave think twice and the fools walk far. The Lord keep watch on that Squatchin Holler. Some say he guards at old Pine Ridge, some say he walks from bridge to bridge. But one thing's sure, when the night comes down, something big still calls this ground. So bank that fire, let the night get deep, let the willows whisper while the kudzu creeps. If you catch a glimpse through the midnight holler, just nod your head, don't scream and holler. 'Cause the wild runs free and the legends get taller out where he roams in Squatchin Holler. We ain't scared, but we sure stay cautious down in the dark of that Squatchin Holler.